everyone, welcome to Crank It Up Podcast, the YouTube home of Brigand Games. I'm Jim Price, designer of Erudia Battle of Birthrights, and today I want to introduce the Chrononaut class. The Chrononauts are one of the 4 primaries that will be added to the game system in the Anachrony expansion, and they are currently my favorite in the entire system, and I'm not supposed to have favorites. But because they are my favorite, they will be added to the demo mod by this week. I love the Chrononauts because, as you will see, it is impossible to play them without thinking well in advance, because that is their entire mechanic. The Chrononauts have powerful abilities that take time to manifest while manipulating time, rules, and everything in between. Narratively speaking, the Chrononauts are at the core of the Anachrony expansion, which makes sense given its name. I have said that Anachrony is meant to feel like a love letter to Final Fantasy, with dragoons, red mages, and ninjas all appearing early on in that series, but time mages did not. They did not appear until Final Fantasy V, but here they are in the first expansion as Chrononauts, having traveled back in time to prevent the calamity, only to end up accelerating it. The Chrononauts are led by Gaspar, a leader who draws a ton of aggro. Gaspar has the unique, powerful ability to wipe out a third of a player's turn, forcing them to lose 1 tactic next turn. Then Gaspar gains 4 delay. Yes, 4 delay. What kind of ability would justify such a long wait? The ability to play a card every turn. Once you get past the initial phase, Gaspar can play an additional card every other turn, or every turn if you get the Chrononaut engine going. This is incredibly powerful, but requires precise planning and setup, which is why I love the Chrononauts. You cannot play them fast out of the gate. You have to pace yourself and ask yourself whether some abilities will have enough time to manifest. They won't get to activate everything, and that's okay and expected. But if you get a Chrononaut engine going, it's amazing. They have several ways to speed up Gaspar and equivalent cards, but also have the chance to slow down your rival to ensure it happens naturally. There are a lot of plays I can go over in this video, but I have to limit myself to 3, which is a really hard choice. For the first play, I want to talk about their antagonism because it's often non-traditional and hard to measure unless someone tells you the impact, but I swear that this has screwed me over multiple times. Bretling has 2 very annoying abilities. The first ability creates a requirement around the order of your rival's tactics. It's typical to play a unit, then play cards that affect the unit, especially if you are bursting. If you are winning on Bretling's base, this is impossible. Consider knights, for example. It's common to play a squire, then play shield block to give it a strength and a shield, then play longsword so you can activate the command. That's a simple 9-power play using common cards. But this is impossible because it requires leading with the squire, since those other plays rely on having it being played first. Consider the same effect that Blancpain can have, in a different way. After a unit is played there, it is power locked at its current power. This really hurts weapon-based classes, or cards that you want to grow in strength, because none of that will matter for a turn. While you can play around Blancpain through movement, there are times where I have a must-win battlefield and can't win because I won't get the power. Blancpain is especially good, considering that he nullifies the Blade of Erudia, stopping a burst by 5 power when you are already starting with 5 from a leader. For the second play, I want to talk about Time Remnant, one of the most aggro-inducing constructs. Time Remnant takes some time to remove its delay, but once it is fully activated, you get a mini turn every turn. Based on the tactic you use, you get a slight bonus, although double card draw for deplete is fantastic. Notably, Time Remnant gives you the potential to spend a turn killing most unshielded units, which is really impactful considering that the Chrononauts often want to stall for time. This means that they have to either spend tactic shielding, which is a great form of tactic suppression, or immediately go after the Time Remnant, which slows them down as well. Time Remnant scales as you gain additional tactics, which the Chrononauts can do with Breach. Whereas Gaspar has the flexibility to play any card, Breach requires that you repeat a tactic you chose. However, this has its own advantages. You could, in fact, use it to repeat damage, which I have in an emergency situation, and it could also place additional strength. With Time Remnant, using Advance for 4 strength and no cards from your hand can be really impactful on the right battlefields, especially Abysses. But Breach can also copy those special tactic labels, like a Sinoa or a Godovan, which is fantastic if you can pull it off. And when you do, Time Remnant will be there to give you the associated mini-effect again. For the final play I want to cover today, we have to talk about Flashpoint, their forbidden spell. Chrononauts are one of the few primaries in the system that have no ambush, loot, retreat, or VP cards, instead focusing on a forbidden spell to take an extra turn. Flashpoint is great and yet gutsy because you have to set your own timeline and carefully stick to it. It's important to know the order of events, because delay is removed after event resolution, so Flashpoint would lose its last delay and be queued for the next turn. But the Chrononauts can also manipulate delay to throttle Flashpoint and make it faster. While difficult to pull off, if Flashpoint is successful, that extra turn can be devastating, especially with objectives. Normally, rivals have a chance to take back bridges from turn to turn, but they can't if you take 2 turns in a row. Given the nature of bridges, it means that you can get another battlefield for doing nothing. It can mean another round of damage on planes before they have a chance to shield. It changes who has the final turn priority on caves. I love that I lost a game to someone on an objective because I simply ran out of time, and the counter reached its destination. Flashpoint can do that, but it is by no means guaranteed, and quite often it is discarded by others in my experience, though I wouldn't personally do that. The Chrononauts have a different need from their treasury than most. Because of their need to often stall for a turn, Ashes of Ifrit is crucial. With Time Remnant, this gives them a fairly robust turn to advance their own cause while still slowing you down because of that extra damage. Some of their acolytes, especially Tisset, are absolutely crucial to establishing the Gasper engine, and having direct access is really important. I really like the boots with them because they naturally spread anyway, but it can be another way to buy time by constantly changing where your rival's pressure will need to go. Given that Tisset is a common target to die, I also enjoy the health boost on her. It can be really fun to keep moving Britling so that you are always winning. The other item I really enjoy taking with them is the Isidos because of the extra unit play. Given the nature of some of the Chrononauts, I don't always do this terminally, but sometimes a well-timed YOLO with the Isidos can hit a very well-timed timekeeper. Just ask Beryl. The Chrononauts have other reasons to like extra plays, and the Isidos makes for a great tactic to copy with Breach as you play multiple power-granting items. I love the Chrononauts for a number of reasons, and not just their multi-turn plans. They have a lot of offensive intrigue, while also having both direct and indirect antagonism. They mess with the order of turns, and make you think about the order of tactics. It's a truly engaging experience as both a player and as an opponent, and they serve as a great way to set the tone for the Anachrony expansion. This is a complex faction though, and not one to be taken lightly, so before you play it, make sure you know the rules of timing well, especially how cards in Limbo only get removed during your turn, not the turn you played them. Are you excited for the Chrononauts? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, let's shut it down.